Hello and welcome once again, first class fans. I am the Elk, and you know me from breaking down all the action in the FCL. We talk about the matches, we talk about the storylines, and we talk about all the wonderful competitors. And occasionally I get the opportunity to sit down on my own and talk to one of those competitors to really shine a spotlight in this, our Spotlight series at This Week in the FCL. So without further ado, let's get right into it and talk to our guest. I'm going to introduce him to you now. And if you're a fan of the Elk, you know I'm a longtime lover of alliterative language. So let's talk to a prolific podcasting pundit, a producer, and of course, a deft director of the upcoming film, 10 Reasons Not to Make a Movie. That's an interesting one. We'll definitely talk about that one. He is a dynasty on the rise in the first class league. It is the wonderful David Campbell. David, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Andrew. It's so good to be back this week in the FCL programming. It seems like it's been a while. I love you guys. Listen every week to the work you do. That means I listen to everything that you might say about me, Andrew. So just be careful. I know you've got a tendency, to favour some of the more despicable people in the league, So, you like to err on the side of darkness. But just so you know, Andrew, I am listening. Always watching, my friend. Always watching.
Well, David, you are not wrong about that. Obviously, let's go back to that alliteration. Say, I do like the sinister ones, the spoilers, if you will. I'm a big fan of one man by the name of Furtado. I've made no secrets about it. If you are bad, the Elk likes what you're doing. But that doesn't mean I don't recognize some serious talent in the FCL on both sides of the line. And David, there is no question in my mind that you are a nice guy, that you are a good guy. You treat people with respect. You say good things about them, except, of course, for our long-suffering champion, who you don't like at all.
Oh, God.
But with that in mind, instead of talking about the FCL to start things off, I have a question that I asked to Mr. Furtado when I spoke to him on our last Spotlight series that I did. And I'd like to ask you the same question because I feel it's a good way to get to know something about a person. Okay. That is, what brought you into your love of movies? What was the first film that you sat down in a theater, David, and you watched and you had those lights glittering in your eyes, the big screen and the magic of it washed over, and you said to yourself, that's it. I'm a movie fan. This is something that's important to me. When was that moment for you?
It's a tough question. I think there's probably two sort of distinct moments. Like there's the moment where I decided that I was a movie fan, and I think that was when I was at a friend's house and he put on The Godfather on the TV for the first time, and I was far too young to watch that movie. And you may think like an 8-year-old or something wouldn't appreciate that film, but it helped that he had the PlayStation 2 game as well for The Godfather. So we watched The Godfather and then went up the stairs and we're like, we're going to run our own family, like on the PlayStation 2. And it was a great sort of combination of both. So from that age, loved The Godfather. In terms of the movie that made me want to make movies, I remember sort of being at this phase of my life, like, I went in to do one thing, came out, and I was like, what's the next step? What do I really want to do? Having to look sort of deep within myself. And I remember watching Kill Bill for the first time. And that being the movie, that I was just like, yep, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is the path I want to go down. Because I just absolutely adore the style of that movie. And like, it's a simple plot. She has a literal list of people she has got to go through to kill. It's not in terms of, the script structure and stuff like that. It's fairly by the numbers. It's fantastic. But it has like a 10-minute animated scene in the middle of it. It is batshit crazy. And that was the one that attracted me and made me say, yep, I want to make movies with my life. This is what I want to do.
Well, I got to say, those are two very big names that you're throwing out there. Tarantino and Francis Ford Coppola, not bad influences to have. Definitely the gateway drug for a lot of people is The Godfather, one of the greatest films of all time, according to most people. I'll just go ahead and say, not quite so much for me, but It's not about me, David. It's about you. Like, definitely.
Well, you're like my friend, Andrew, my friend Sweeney, who he once went into the FCL chat to ask if I wanted to come and play a game of FIFA. And I was like, I'm kind of busy right now, my friend. I'm not prepared for the main event coming up. Right. But he has never got through the wedding scene of The Godfather. I think he's tried to watch it like 3 times. And he's just like, it's not for me. It's far too long. Right. Did they ever make out the wedding? And I'm like, yeah, you just need to get through the wedding. The wedding's great. It's a great song, nice Italian dancing. But, it's a movie that's definitely not for everyone, I don't think.
Well, let me just back up 1 second real quick, David, because I think think you're putting it on me now. And I want to say, while it may not be my favorite film of all time, I will not say it's not a good movie. I don't want death threats. I don't care if you like me, but The Godfather's a pretty dang good movie. Just, I don't know if it's my favorite ever. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
All right. Well, David, you said it yourself. You are into making films, but someone might get a different impression if they were to take a look at the title of your next film. I believe we should have the link to that up in the description for this video. Probably went out on all our social medias when we put this episode up. So you can go ahead and check out that yourself, guys. The trailer for 10 Reasons Not to Make a Movie. With a title like that, David, I just have to ask, is there some love lost with the films? What's the story going on here?
Basically, this movie started out as a movie called Andy Mitchell Wants to Make a Wrestler. And I'd made a short film at university. I was editing it with my friend Andy, and he was talking about how he wanted to go and do wrestling training. And we started talking. I was like, what if we filmed you do it? What if we did a documentary? And then I was like, no, what if we made a mockumentary of you making it? And we just made this fictional story around it. So we made the script, cast our friends, got a crew involved. We're like, we're going to make a feature film with no budget because apparently we don't have a brain cell to realize why that might be a challenge or a struggle or a bad idea. But eventually, years down the line, obviously, people left the country. A lot of things went haywire and wrong and stuff like that. So we had to retool it and eventually turned it into a movie about the failed making of that production. And I have essentially Michael Scotted myself or David Brented myself and placed myself as the main villain of this particular story and blamed everyone else for the failure. So we've managed to take what was dog, poop and turned it into somewhat of a dog poop salad, if you will. I hope, in all seriousness, a joke. I love the final product we've came away with, and I'm very proud of the effort we've put in over a very long period of time. As I've said here, it's a labour of love, and hopefully, with a festival run, hopefully in the horizon, it will do quite well.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to checking it out when it finally comes out. And once again, I want to encourage everyone, do check out the trailer. We should have that link for you. I mean, it sounds like maybe there was a little bit of a lack of planning with the film initially, but that's what some of the greats can do is you can adapt your position and you can make something new out of your existing product. You can use what you have and put out something that you're proud of. And I'm glad to hear that you are proud of the work that you've done. A little more meta direction, maybe something like Paul Thomas Anderson, or maybe the Coen brothers occasionally dip into that sort of thing. More David Lynch even. Really, either way, I'm just excited for all of you to check that one out. Do check that out on YouTube. Share it on your Twitter if you want to. I'm sure David wouldn't mind.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be absolutely fantastic. You see, lack of planning, you're 100% right. I think it's more sort of youthful naivety when you go into something like that with it. It's like, we're making a feature film. It'll be great. How hard can it be? And then you go into it and you're like, oh, it's this hard. Okay, that's great.
I blame Kevin Smith for making it look so easy in the 90s. Let's 100%. Go ahead then, David. And since we've talked about your movie a little bit, we've talked about how you got into films. Let's go into the FCL and let's talk about one of those D words that I talked about earlier, debut. You are quite literally the first. You were there before anybody else in the FCL. There had to be a lot of pressure for you, and you were coming in lauded with a big name, the Dynasty, a lot of expectations on your shoulders. How did it feel when you were coming in that first match to be kind of the representative or one of the two representatives of what this league is going to be moving forward?
Yeah, I took it very seriously, actually, because I was really honoured to be given that first main event slot against Cooper, no less as well. Like, don't forget, Cooper Barnes was like the star of a Nickelodeon show for what has been like a decade now. Like, the man is a literal superhero, and it's quite intimidating to go against that. But also I'm a massive wrestling fan, as I've said in the past. I love NXT as a brand. And when this was pitched as the NXT of the movie trivia Schmoedown, I was like, to me, that means something. I know what that has to mean, and I know what that has to look like. So like you said, there was a lot of pressure going into it, not only to win, which I really, really wanted to do, obviously, but also to make it as entertaining a product and entertaining a moment as I possibly could. And hopefully we managed to do that and set the league up for some success going forward.
Well, you certainly do have, and I've said this before, David, about you, even in my moments when I'm not being so kind, a big, effusive personality. You're the kind of person who smiles and has an entire room full of people smiling with you. I can say that without any doubt in my mind. But much like NXT, that's where wrestlers begin. That's where they start their career. They pay their dues is often what is said in the wrestling business. And part of paying your dues is doing the job. So you came in your first match against Cooper Barnes and you lived up to the name, the Dynasty. You're entertaining. You win your match. Everything's going well. But then your second match begins, it rolls around, and you do what some might refer to as doing the job in the wrestling business. And Nick Harley takes you out and moves on to take the FCL title eventually. That match, I'm guessing you have a lot of thoughts when you look back on that one, how you could have played it differently, how you might have been able to take the win out. I
think the match with Nick is a reframe in my head a lot, because when I look at it on paper, I missed 3 points in that match, which would beat a lot of other competitors, right? Those 3 points I missed, though, I kicked myself over because I shouldn't have missed them. And I think the story with the Nick match was I went in with a lot of pressure on myself to do it, an unhealthy amount of pressure, and that didn't help me going in there. So round one was really, where the match was lost for me. But having said that, looking back on the match, whatever was said in me and Nick's rivalry or after that, or what he did with the FCL Championship, Nick Harley has proven to be an extremely special competitor in this space. He won 3 matches to win that FCL Championship in a row, where he spun opponent's choice 3 times. He has since went on to win in his movie trivia Schmoedown debut. If that's the only loss currently on my record, while I hate to lose, if I'm losing to a man who's looking like he's going to be the next sensation in this space, I don't see much shame in that. So there are regrets, yes, with how I could have prepared and handled it differently at the start. But moving forward, I do try and take a lot of positives from that experience as well.
Well, I mean, it was an impressive matchup for Nick. And as somebody who called out the glory of Nick Harley very early in his FCL career, I couldn't be more pleased at the success that he's had. And I will say it was the outcome I was looking for in your match. But you are the kind of guy where you feel bad when a loss happens. That being said, you do have to live with the realities of this business, of the way the FCL is going to work moving forward. And in the end, right now, although a lot of people would say your record will not reflect who you are as a player, that you were this close to a player on the level of Nick Harley, people will also eventually just say a win is a win and a loss is a loss. This goes on your record and puts you at a 500 batting average. And as of the time of our recording today, your next scheduled match that we're aware of, I believe, is against somebody else who had an unfortunate 1-1 record. I'm really looking forward to this one. And I know you probably have a lot to say about your upcoming match against one half of Late to the Party, Vanessa Fitzsimmons.
This is such an interesting one because it's unlike the matches I've had so far. It's not the first ever main event. There's not that pressure on it. It's not a guy who I despise and I have to beat for the good of the league. This is Vanessa Fitzsimmons. This is someone who I have not only the utmost respect for, but like as a player, like as a competitor. She's been a movie trivia Schmoedown stalwart for such a long time now. And she's come in to the FCL and been extremely impressive. Now, like you said, she's 1-1 like me. I lost to Kofi Outlaw in a very, very good match on the other side of that bracket. But the match with Vanessa, I look at 2 ways. One, I'm looking forward to it because, like I say, Vanessa is an absolutely, game competitor. She's amazing. But 2, I'm very much getting myself prepared for it because of that respect for her. I want the win. I'm here to be competitive. And I know for a fact to beat Vanessa Fitzsimmons, I need to bring the very best David Campbell that I can bring to that match because that's the only way that I will walk out with a win after that match.
Well, I mean, judging by the 2 of you and everything I've seen so far, I'm guessing we're going to see some points on the board, a lot of questions answered correctly, and some saccharine, sweet, sickly kind of back and forth between the 2 of you where you say nice things to each other.
Oh, you'll hate that. You will despise it, Andrew. It's going to be such a nice
I'm just asking, is it so hard to just insult somebody once in a while? Get in there against your opponent and tell them how terrible they are. Tell them you're going to take them to the cleaners.
I have done that. I've not been afraid to do that. The problem is I've done it to people that you like. That has been the issue so far.
That is a good point. When it's people that I enjoy watching, it does hurt a little bit more. But that being said, when it comes to sports, whether it's movie trivia or any other sport, you are a man who is very active. I have to ask, you're from Scotland. It's a part of the world that's a little bit different to me. By the way, love your beverages. There's one in particular, very big fan of it.
I've got like Iron Brew here, a finished bottle, like right on. By the way, Iron Brew is not the sponsor of this show. Other Scottish fizzy drinks are available.
I'm more of a brown liquor man myself, usually about 12 years old. But at the same time, as a man from that part of the world, you must have recently been very excited. I know you're a fan of the football.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily the best for Scotland from everything I heard. I'm Canadian. I have no idea. We just watch guys with sticks on the ice. But
Andrew, we were happy to be there. We were happy to be there. We haven't been there since I was like born, like to a major tournament. All right, like we were there for a party and to get drunk and hope that England didn't beat us, which they didn't. You know, so when we drew against England, we were like, job done. All right, we managed to avoid defeat to the neighbours. Now we can move on with our lives. Now we can go on, look towards better things, and hopefully there's hope in the future. But in all seriousness, it was a great time. We've been through this sort of pandemic era, and I know you can ask Chris as well. And obviously the final, well, it sucks for Chris because I know exactly how much that he was looking forward to it. But he'll say himself, the lead up during that tournament, it was such a good atmosphere for like Scotland, and I'm saying England as well. Just getting back into the pub, Andrew, having a pint with your pals and getting to see and talk to people, watching the football. That's what it was all about. You know, that was what was sort of beautiful about it. So while the results might have not necessarily gone our way, the entire experience as a whole was a really good one to have the Euros back in our lives.
Well, obviously, that's a big event for a lot of people. And I know you were a football fan, so I just had to ask. And yes, for all of our American and Canadian friends, I'm using the term football and referring to a game that does not involve a pigskin. I apologize. I'm just trying to be, Eurocentric with this.
It's a ball we constantly kick with our feet, which is rarely done in what you guys call football. So I'm just gonna leave that there. You know, I'm going to leave that there. Yours is more. It should be American rugby as opposed to American football. That's all I'm saying.
Either way, I know that it's been important to a lot of people. Sorry to our super producer, Chris Barnes, for opening up fresh wounds. My apologies. That being said, you said what the feeling was for that event was just happy to be here. I believe you've expressed something similar, or at least the opinion that one of the competitors in the FCL should just be happy to be where they are. And that's not just any competitor. That's your champion, Zaflirtenflaus. Not a lot of love lost between you, or frankly, about half of the roster of the FCL for the man who not only would be, but is king at this moment. What do you have to say about your champ?
King of what? You know, king of European pop. I'm from Europe. I've never heard a single song. You know, I'm convinced it's not on Spotify. You know, it must have been on a MySpace page that's since shut down. But anyway, the thing with the Flaus is, for a lot of the players in the league, it's about what he represents. It's that he represents someone who feels entitled, someone who doesn't deserve the championship that he's been given, someone who doesn't represent the best of the first-class league. And I agree with all that. You know, Andrew, I'm all about, fighting for a righteous cause. But the thing with me is, it also comes with a bit of an ego, I think, as you all know, and I'm happy to admit. A lot of people forget the first ever main event of this entire league was David Campbell. It was the Dynasty coming out on top. It was the Dynasty defeating Cooper Barnes. It was me establishing myself at that time as the face of the singles division. And what happened, Andrew, was that the Flaus interrupted me with his stupid echoey microphone, thinking that he ran the show. And he's felt entitled to do that since day one. And I've not had the chance to get retribution for myself after that slight. Because make no mistake about it, it was a slight. He came and he stole my moment, and he came and stole my spotlight. And the thing with me and the Flaus is, while it's about all those things I mentioned about the league as a whole, it's also a very personal vendetta. So if the Flaus wants to fight me in a movie trivia match in Brad Gilmore's steel cage in Booker T's arena, or if he wants to go for a karaoke duel for some ABBA, I'm more than happy to take him on in any environment, Mr. Elk. You can believe that.
Well, David Campbell, before Zaflirtenflaus decides whether or not he will take a chance on you, that's an ABBA reference, folks. We're going to have to see if potentially you get in that match in the first place, because let's talk about you once again. Let's talk about that match you've got coming up and your nickname. I want to focus on this, the Dynasty. This is a big name. This means a lot of things to a lot of people. Are you a dynasty on the rise? At 1-1, you get a victory coming up. You're batting 666, and you're looking pretty good. That name, the dynasty, means something. But what happens if you go into your next match, and maybe even the one after that, good competitors, bad competitors, it doesn't matter, and you put another couple L's on your record? Does the name stick around? Are you still the dynasty, or has the dynasty been toppled if you can't get it done in the ring in your next couple matches?
Let me tell you a couple of stories. I used to play for a football team when I was younger, and we weren't very good. In fact, we were by far the worst team in the league. And we went on a very bad losing run. But we kept going. We kept showing up every week. We get tackled. We get knocked down. And what happened, Andrew? We eventually won. And we eventually kept winning. And we eventually turned fortunes around. I played judo when I was younger. I was a very, very fat child, to say the least. And judo, the fights were based on weight categories as opposed to age. So I was fighting against guys that were like 6 years older than me. And what happened? I kept getting knocked down. I kept getting beat up. But I'd go to the next tournament and hopefully win a few matches and get myself back on my feet. This movie looked like all was done. We couldn't film some of the scenes because an actor had went off to America. What happened? I retooled, I remade the movie into something better. Win or lose, and don't let that be, any indication that I plan on losing, because like I'm a very competitive person. I like to win, and I will bring my best to Vanessa Fitzsimmons. But if I lose, it's not the end of a dynasty. A dynasty is about longevity. A dynasty is about lasting. And I'm here in this league for the long haul. Everyone's got their sights set on pastures new and everything they want to do. I'm here to build. I'm here to establish myself. I'm here to be the face of this division for a long, long time. And it's about getting back on your feet from those losses. That's exactly what I intend to do after Nick Harley. But if it does happen again, nothing is going to stop me keep fighting. And nothing is going to stop me from keep building my dynasty, Andrew.
Well, that is certainly a fine answer to that question. And I do not doubt your commitment, David Campbell. Let me make that perfectly clear. I know how hard you work, and I've seen the knowledge that you can display in that ring. But if I may, let me turn it back around on you and tell you a story about when I was a child. And I used to play soccer, as they call it over here, with a team. And it's quite a different tale than yours, because you said you weren't very good as a team, but you fought hard and you won. You were the underdogs in the movie. You were the Titans that they failed to remember in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. I, on the other hand, was a goalie on a team that was much better than most of the other teams in our division. We went all city, and I rarely had to block a goal. Most of my games were just looking at the other end of the field and go, it looks like they're having fun over there. And that, to me, is a tale that I can take and I can apply to the champions, the Flirtenflas. He didn't win the title himself, it's true. He had it handed to him by somebody else. He was a hand-picked successor, but he's just riding the wave and taking advantage. He's up there on top of the mountain, whether you like it or not. He is the champion. He's recognized. He has that belt around his waist. And for you, beating Vanessa Fitzsimmons might be the first step to becoming the top of the league dynasty that topples somebody like the Flirtenflas. But a loss could knock you back. And I want to know, David Campbell, what is your preparation moving forward in the FCL to make sure, win, lose, draw, no matter what else, that you continue to impress? Because you're going to need to against the caliber of opponents that you are definitely going to see yourself facing.
Look at my record so far. In 2 matches, I have missed 4 questions. People like to forget, as new people come into this league, what's been here before and what's been here since day one. And I say this as a guy who has came in and been nothing but respectful, but I will boast when it's time to boast. I have one of the best PvPs in this league. I have one of the best round 2 strategies in this league, because you expect one thing, and if that one thing happens, I'm going to go perfect. And if that thing doesn't happen, you're surprised. No one else has established that type of power in round 2, and it's that type of power in round 2 that Vanessa and anyone else who comes up against me has to be worried for. All right?
You definitely are a heck of a competitor. I will make the minorest of corrections. There is at least one player in the league who has definitely established that level of credibility, and that is Robert Montano. I will take nothing away from the way he has played.
Listen, that's nothing against anyone else in the league. Robert Montano has one of the best pure knowledge bases we have seen in the singles division. That is beyond reproach. But in terms of strategy, in terms of thinking about the game, no one knows what I think of. No one knows the preparation I go to. No one knows the lengths I will go to try and get the win.
Well, David Campbell, I would expect no less from somebody who started off this interview by saying that you watch our show regularly. Of course, you know the strategy of the game because you listen to This Week in the FCL, where we break it all down for you every week. And David, you are a wonderful, very likable person. As I've said many times, I may not be rooting for you. Many times when you go into the ring, it might be your opponent that I want to see take the win. And I will admit that to you right here to your face because I'm not afraid of that opinion. But you're a wonderful person to get to know. You have a lot of insight, and clearly you have a lot of drive for this and for everything else you do. You had a movie that was going to fail, and so you made something out of it. You took a loss in the FCL, and now you're coming back, and you are determined, from everything I've heard, to be stronger and better than ever. To make the name The Dynasty mean something to everyone out there. And I just want to ask you, before we get on out of here, and say it has been a pleasure, but is there anything else that you would like to say to your fellow competitors, to the fans of the FCL out there, to anyone watching right now? You have a big, wide stage. David Campbell, if you could say anything to those people right now, what is the one thing you would say?
I mean, it's 100% is thank you. And whether that goes to any other player in this league who's came in and absolutely nailed it, bossed it, given it their all, whether it's the fans who come and Twitch and watch it every week, whether it's This Week in the FCL, whether it's you, Andrew, I say thank you. Because without everyone here involved, the FCL might not have made it out of week one. I say thank you to Brad and Dwayne and PLD and Steph and everyone involved in the production of it. Because I've made no mistake about it. The reason that you see me getting so passionate, the reason you see this vein pulsating sometimes when I talk about the Flows, is because I love this thing. I absolutely adore the FCL. The FCL for me is something that is extremely fun, and it's something that a lot of us just absolutely enjoy, love, and gravitate towards. And it's something that I hope I get the privilege of being a part of for a long time to come, regardless of what happens. But I'm just a small part of it. So to everyone else, any competitor who I get the chance to go up against, fan, anyone involved in the production, the making of it, you guys and all the after shows, thank you, because this community and what we're building here, not just my personal dynasty, but the dynasty of the FCL, has been absolutely phenomenal.
Well, there is certainly a dynasty coming your way with David Campbell. He's got a match coming up against Vanessa Fitzsimmons. He's got a movie coming out. Remember to check that out, guys. You can see him on Twitter at David Campbell _5. Did I get that right, David?
Yes, I believe so.
David Campbell _5 on Twitter. And he's got...
It used to be, Andrew, at David Campbell 55, but Rangers, who are the opposite team from Celtic, won their 55th league championship last year. So I had to find a way to change it out of pure spite. It was a bad time.
The vagaries of being on social media nowadays. Well, Mr. Campbell, you're available on Twitter. You are in the FCL, and we are looking forward to seeing your next match. I may not always like you. I may say that you lack a killer instinct because you just can't bring out that animal inside to attack your opponents, but I do not doubt your commitment. I do not doubt your knowledge. You are clearly a competitor who earned his spot and his name of the dynasty, and we're looking forward to seeing everything you do going forward. And they say in this business, if you want to impress, you got to steal from the best. Nick Harley moved on, so stealing from you today will do, and I will say thank you to you, David Campbell, for continuing to entertain in the FCL, for joining us here this week for this Spotlight series. Hopefully, all you fans out there have learned a little bit more about David, a little bit more about everything he does. Make sure to check him out. Subscribe to the FCL. Check out his movie. And again, please retweet that. Send it out there so we can get him out to more people, because I may not always like him as a competitor, but I love you as a person, David. You are a real sweetheart. And hopefully, we'll see you back on This Week in the FCL real soon. Fans, thank you for joining us today. This has been a pleasure. David Campbell of the FCL Spotlight Series. We'll see you next time.